of new members. He has been he's gone all the way up through the leadership roles and has done all the trio roles. And currently he's a past district director, but still in great demand for his knowledge and his skill set and his wisdom. And he has a wonderful way of sharing his perspective. So while you're also getting this information, he's just sharing his personal perspective and his own sense of humor. So I hope you'll enjoy tonight with Talha, and I'm going to let Dorothy take over now because she's got control of the recording. And just a warning, there are a few places where we had to break and come back again due to a couple of challenges with the recording and his signal. So maybe Dorothy will be able to sort of catch those and then move forward, and we won't have to wait too long in the middle. So Dorothy, back to you, and welcome everyone. I hope you enjoy it. We'll have a Q&A session afterwards.
And you are welcome to turn off your cameras if you want, because he will take up the whole screen. Let's begin. Oh, I'd like to remind you that it would be beneficial for you to put it on full screen speaker views so that you don't have any distractions on the screen.
No sound here.
Is Dorothy with us? Yeah.
I can't get any sound.
No, none of us can.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I forgot to turn on the sound, didn't I?
Or something like that.
My mistake. Let me try that again.
Everyone can.
Virginia, just a reminder, when this is playing, I can't see anyone except Taha. So if there's something, if you need my attention, text me, please.
Will do. Or WhatsApp.
Okay, it'll work this time.
Hello, District 21 and fellow parents and babysitters. This is going to be a session about club mentoring. And it is a beautiful relationship that you can have with the Toastmasters community, with a group of people, and especially with the new club that is being formed. Why did I call out parents and babysitters and teachers? Because if sponsoring a club is like giving birth to a new club, mentoring a club is like being its first teacher, its babysitter, its coach. And when you mentor a club, you have a relationship with that club, with that group of people for life. Because think about it. Do you still remember the founders of your clubs? Do you still remember the person who was president when you joined your first Toastmasters club? Do you remember your school or high school or university teachers? I bet you do. People never forget the other people who taught them how to take the first steps. And mentoring a new club is no different. As always, before starting, we need to ask ourselves, why? Why should we mentor a club? Is it just to get the Distinguished Toastmaster certification? If that is your goal, fine. There is no right and wrong answers to your motivations as long as you're motivated and as long as you can stick religiously to that motivation. Your motivation will translate into your commitment, and your commitment will rub off on each and every person that is involved in the formation and upbringing of the new club. I will now start the presentation. This presentation is based on the Toastmasters Standard Manual for Club Mentors, and I will show that to you in the end as well. That should be your go-to guide for any club mentoring matters. But at the same time, let me warn you, no two clubs are the same, no two mentors are the same, and no two mentoring experiences are the same. You will have to improvise. You will have to invent things as you go along. You will have to face some unique situations that are not answered in the manuals. Trust me on that. So in this stuff, why do you want to mentor a club? Of course, if it is for the DTM certification, even then, you want to get it right. Because ultimately, when the 6 months complete, you can ask the club president to send an email to Toastmasters World Headquarters confirming that you've completed your club mentorship. But here is where I get real with you. A new president of a new club will not know any better. They won't know whether you've excelled as a mentor or whether you have just fulfilled the duty. It is you who have to decide on that. They will easily send the email, and a couple of days later, you receive a confirmation from Toastmaster that congratulations, your mentorship is complete and you can now apply for Distinguished Toastmaster or whatever. But have you done right by that club? There is no way to find that out until it is 3 years later and club is either thriving or maybe it's in trouble or it's doing just okay. Mentoring a club is nothing less than laying the foundation of a new life. Think of a club as a living organism. It's born, it's raised, it's taught, it evolves, it grows, it enters into the difficult teens, which in Toastmasters parlance is usually the second or third difficult renewal cycle. Or maybe it can fall on hard times after even decades of successful operation. There are no guarantees. And the key is to be ready for any situation that encounters a club encounters. Now, how do you scout for mentors? If you are looking for club mentors, what are the qualities that you should look for? First of all, the person, whoever is mentoring, they should be an experienced Toastmaster, and ideally, they should have had at least some experience of club leadership. That is very vital, because you cannot teach something until you've experienced it. And being a club mentor, becoming a club mentor is fairly easy, right? You can just ask the area, division, district leadership, and the club growth director will appoint you as a club mentor. But then, you should ask yourself at that point in time, did I just take the place of someone who would have been much better at it than I would be? If you can reply to that question that no, I will fulfill my duties through my experience, through my creativity, through my commitment, then of course you deserve to be a club mentor. Why do I stress this point? The right person for the right job, because at its founding, there are only 2 slots for a club mentor. And once those are filled, it is fairly difficult to make replacements. And later in the life of a club, you won't have mentors, you have coaches, and that is a slightly different ballgame. So this is the one point in a club's life where you can have mentors, and you need to get it right. Move on. Think about mentoring as teaching a people to fish. You've all heard that story. Either give fish to a man or teach a man to fish. In the first case, you will be perhaps addressing their hunger for a few hours. But if you teach a man to fish, or for that matter, a woman to fish, they will be self-sustaining for life. And your number one focus towards club mentorship should be to make it self-sustaining. In other words, your job is to go out of the job. Your job is to lose your job as soon as possible. Your job is successful when the club no longer needs you. Just like as parents, we are successful when our children can fend for their own. The first job of a club mentor, of course, after going through the Toastmasters materials and the guides and the manuals, is selecting and training club officers. This is perhaps the most important task in the whole life cycle of a club. Why do I say that? The first executive committee sets the pace. They establish the norms. The first executive committee decides when the club will meet, how often will it meet, what will be the club membership, how a member will be inducted, should the club be member-centric or guest-centric? If the club will have a theme, what would it be? What will be the areas of emphasis in the club? And how will the club monitor its members' progress? Now, you would be thinking to yourself that all of that is fairly common. Whenever a club is formed, we do ask ourselves these questions. But remember what I said. No 2 clubs are the same. No 2 club mentors are the same. No 2 mentoring experiences are the same. You might be mentoring corporate club. And if it comes to that, even the Toastmasters goals will take a backseat to the goals that are envisioned by the organization behind the establishment of Toastmasters program in their office. What will take paramount importance is what the organization wants out of the program, rather than what Toastmasters want, or what we want, or what the members want. Let me give you an example. In our district, there's a club that is centered around a certain religious community, and I'm sure you must be aware of many such clubs. They're not interested in people becoming DTMs. They're interested in people completing a single path. Once a path is completed, they're content with that. And
Looks like we're breaking up. Yeah, I've just texted Dorothy.
Okay, just hang tight. Oh, he's going to come back in now.
right. Okay. So selecting and training club officers is perhaps the most important thing in the life cycle of a club, especially the first executive committee. We already talked about various ideas of how a Toastmasters club should be. And I'm not talking about a change in rules of a meeting, a change in the DCP. It's just that different communities, different organizations may have different goals with respect to what they want out of the Toastmasters club, especially if we're talking about a corporate club, a club that's being sponsored by a company or a community or a college. Their needs take precedence. So how do you select and train club officers? The easiest way is to send out emails or messages and say that, you know, we need a president, a VP education, a VP membership, a PR, a secretary, a treasurer, and a sergeant at arms. And experience suggests that everybody, at least, there will be at least one candidate for each of the roles except sergeant at arms. Except sergeant at arms. Even today, my home club, which is 20 plus years old, struggles with the election of sergeant at arms. Nobody wants to be sergeant at arms. Somehow it appears at the bottom of hierarchies, and the very title implies that it is slightly lesser than other roles. First, we need to establish that there's no role that is lesser or better than other roles. What it is actually all roles are pretty much equal in terms of voting power, and all roles have different responsibilities, not necessarily superior or inferior. So when you put out expressions of interest for an executive committee role, what you end up doing is you invite people to take up roles, and more often than not, no matter how many times you tell them to read the manuals, to read the club leadership handbook, no matter how many guides you give them, you know what happens. They just go for a role, most of the time without even realizing the time and effort they will need to put in. And trust me, that's the worst thing that can happen. A new club being formed with its members and executive committee members having no idea about the responsibilities of being a Toastmaster and club leader. So, in that respect, our first duty as a mentor is to make sure that everybody knows what they're getting into. It is a huge responsibility, let me tell you that. And me, I'm a believer that you cease to be a volunteer as soon as you apply for a position. So don't allow people to hide behind the fact that Toastmasters is a voluntary platform. Because you know what? Yes, we all are volunteers, but we have no right to waste people's time, to take things lightly, and to make the club suffer just because we don't want to put in the effort. And you know, we've seen so many cases like this, where a club is not doing well, and 6 months later, club officers realize that perhaps we're not cut out for this. I'm sorry, it's too late. You have fatally shot the club, and then now you're saying that I was just cleaning the gun. You should have thought it through. And it is our duty as mentors to force everyone to think it through. Trust me, this is coming from my heart, because too many times I've seen clubs struggle. Too many times I've seen clubs founded with great fanfare and celebration and promises and fancy parties and announcements and a social media blitz, only to whimper out 6 months later because the executive committee is no longer interested. So please, please, please ask everyone to get out of the volunteer mindset. When you apply for a role, it becomes a duty. It's no longer a voluntary effort. And the best part of volunteerism is that when you are no longer up to the task due to any limitations, perhaps due to your professional commitments or household commitments, volunteerism does not mean that you should stick to the position anyway. Volunteerism means you should make way for someone who can do the job better. And that should be the culture of every club from day one, performance-based roles. So, I have found that a good way to select club officers is something I encountered by accident. It was not my doing. It was actually a proposal by the company behind a new corporate club. And I absolutely loved it, and it has worked beautifully. They said that you should hold a training session about what each executive committee member does. And at the end of each executive committee role, you can then announce that who would like to come forward for this role. If there are multiple candidates, we can have an election. That way, only people who know what the role is about, they will come forward, they will be in full public eye, they will be accountable, and they will do the role thinking and remembering that people elect them to do that role. So we did that, and trust me, it worked wonders. Because for the first time in my Toastmasters life, we had a new executive committee who knew exactly what they were getting into. So that can be one method of selecting an executive committee. But what about training? Here is a bit of a mixed bag for all of the prospective club mentors. Club officers training is not the platform to train a new executive command. No, it's not. Club officers training is a reinforcement. It is meant for people who have already spent some time in Toastmasters. But if somebody has come into Toastmasters for the first time ever, trust me, and I speak from experience, club officers training will not make much sense for them. It will be helpful, but before the club officers training, before you direct them to the upcoming club officers training held by your district or division or area, you need to prime, you need to orient them, and you need to do it again and again and again. Again, let me remind you, you are like teachers. And what do teachers do? They listen to the questions of their students. And they listen to them, even when they're repeated 10 times. And their job is to calmly answer them each and every time. I know it won't be easy. Like when you're 7 years into Toastmasters, and when someone who spent 10 years in Toastmasters and have done like 5 different executive committee roles, they message you every time they want to find out what the membership renewal will be in November or December. They're not there to learn. They're using you as a human calculator. They're using you as a human search engine. And all of you who are listening, who have been very accommodating and helpful towards their fellow Toastmasters, know what I'm talking. People take you for granted. They ask you questions again and again and again. They ask you things they could easily look up themselves. They don't even bother to go on Google and type in their query and look for answers, just like you do. What they're counting on is, you are there, and you will answer them instantly. And you will make sure that the answer is right. So you will need to get used to it, and you will face some of that when you're training a new executive committee. You will need to reinforce, because let me make that point again that I made in the training for club sponsors. Toastmasters is complicated. Trust me, it is complicated. Remember the first time when you walked into a club meeting, did it make any sense to you? It did not make any sense to me. I was intimidated. I was scared. I saw everywhere, everything was being timed. There was a long agenda with gibberish that I did not understand. What are the projects? What are the manuals? What are pathways? What is a project? Trust me, the answer to the question, what is a project, is a 15-minute keynote. We only take it for granted because we've spent years in Toastmasters and we are steeped in Toastmasters culture, and we've been kindly coached and informed by our mentors and seniors. But a new club, which is stepping into the world of Toastmasters for the first time, does not have that luxury. Keep that in mind. They cannot get up to speed overnight. So again, cast your mind back to your experience as a parent or a teacher or a coach. Trust me, thinking of yourself as the mother of a child will always be helpful and will help contain your anger when you ask the same thing for the 10th time. Especially if it's a corporate club, you need extra caution and an extra dose of tolerance and patience, because in a corporate club, the executive committee officers are in that mindset of managing the club along with their daytime duties. It is different from a community club. See, in a community club, usually people set aside their other commitments when they join the community club's meeting. They are mentally fully there. They have left behind their work persona, their business persona, and all other personas, and they're just concentrated on the screen or in the room. They're all there. But in a corporate club, or even in a college club, where the meeting is happening right in the middle of workday, there are reminders each and everywhere of their life, which is constantly going on, despite the fact they're sitting in a Toastmasters meeting. They're looking at emails. They're supposed to look at emails. They're supposed to respond instantly. And even if they convince themselves that they will not look at emails for a few minutes, they will have that nagging fear of missing out. And they will instantly pick up the phone or the laptop, and then they will check the email again. So a corporate club or a college club, the members and the executive committee members are facing a whole different ballgame in terms of pressures and distractions. And again, you will need a lot of tolerance. Get them interested enough in the role, and things will take care of themselves. But getting there is a long and arduous journey. Moving on, I spent quite a bit of time on selecting and training club officers because I feel that this is the toughest part of mentoring a club, and it defines how the club will do for the foreseeable future. Trust me, if you get this right, you don't even need to go through the other things that religiously, as long as you establish a good team. And how do you establish a good team at a new club depends upon how you go about it. You will have to actively think. Trust me, there are no manuals teaching you how to select a good team for a club. Every club is different. Every club's requirements is different. The member bodies are different. So you need to improvise, and maybe some of the points that I mentioned earlier, if they're helpful, if you find them helpful, you can apply them. Otherwise, you can have your own approach. But think of selecting club officers and hiring people for your new venture. If you think in that mindset, trust me, you will find the right people. Now, Toastmasters' core values: integrity, respect, service, and excellence. Why do we remind ourselves of that? Because at times we get frustrated. At times we question, what are we even doing? At times we will be questioning, what have we gotten ourselves into? And then it is our job to remember these core values, because we not only need to treat other Toastmasters with integrity, respect, service, and excellence, but also other human beings. And we also need to remember the Toastmasters brand promise, empowering individuals through personal and professional development. Does it say anywhere that this needs to happen only in a Toastmasters meeting? No, these skills need to translate into our lives. And all of you who are sitting as leaders and the District 21 district leadership and myself, we have leadership positions, or we have had leadership positions because we recognized that Toastmasters need to populate your life. It needs to be interwoven with your day-to-day life. If we allow it to do that, it will improve each and every area of our lives. Don't just think of it in terms of career growth or acquisition of skills. It will make you a better human being. And much better, it will empower you to help other individuals become better at whatever they do. Now, moving on. This is a Toastmasters promise. And at this point, we all know what a Toastmaster is supposed to do. Attend club meetings regularly, prepare all of the projects to the best of their ability, to prepare and fulfill meeting assignments, to provide fellow members with helpful constructive evaluations, to help the club maintain the positive friendly environment, serve as an officer when called upon to do so, and treat my fellow club members and guests with respect, to bring guests to club meetings, to adhere to the guidelines, to act within Toastmasters core values and activities for service. Now, why do I mention these promises? Because we are well aware of these promises, but new Toastmasters aren't. So these values need to be ingrained in a new club, whether they are club members or club officers. So it would serve well if this is handed to a new club as a checklist of what they're supposed to do. So especially club officers can benefit from this as a reminder of what they're supposed to do, but it will serve well to the club officers as club members as well. It's not just the responsibility of a club officer to run the club. Everyone runs the Toastmasters. And I'm fond of saying one more thing. If you're a club member or a club officer, you're not a club member or a club officer, you are the club. You're only responsible for your actions, and your actions will set the tone for the actions of others. Stop looking towards others, right? Stop thinking about what the president is doing, what the VP education is doing, whether they're doing anything or not, or how many meetings another person is attending. It is you who you can control. And if you display full commitment and positivity, trust me, God always rewards it. He may not reward it immediately, but someday, in some form, it will be rewarded. I'll reiterate the message from the club sponsorship team. Again, build a large team. Being 2 club mentors does not mean that it has to remain limited to 2 people. You would do well if you can include the area or division leadership. You would also do well if you can include some of the senior Toastmasters and build a pool, because during the mentorship period, you need to stay with the club for at least 6 months, And during that time, you will need to interact. You will need to oversee the meetings. You will need to train the club officers again and again and again. You will need to reinforce. For example, these days I'm mentoring a club, and we gave them a demo on how to access pathways, how to open the base camp, how to click the button to actually start a project, and what do you need in order to complete the project. And again, think about it, it's all very complicated. When you do a project, first of all, you need to know what a project is. Is it a speech? Yes, mostly a project is a speech, but it's much beyond a speech, because a project means studying the material and then preparing the speech, delivering the speech, listening to the evaluation, and then again logging onto the website and filling out the post-project portions of the pathway, right? So it is a whole package. It is a whole sequence of steps that constitutes the project, right? A speech is just one component of the project. So how to do a project, how to access pathways. We conducted a session, and then we conducted a Q&A as well. We conducted a quiz, and everybody appeared to understand it very well, and everybody was merry and happy. And guess what? 2 weeks later, oh, most of our members don't know how to access pathways. They're struggling. We just gave the session. Oh, yes, but they forgot. So this is the one area that I predict that you'll have to retrain the members again and again. How to access pathways, how to open projects, how to complete projects. And that is where your large team comes in, because sometimes you may not be available. And trust me, it feels bad because the availability of the members of a club takes paramount importance. If they're available to take a training session, it is your duty to have that training session. If you're not available, you will perhaps feel bad and you will question, how am I doing as a club mentor if I'm not even available for them? This is the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Build a large enough team of people you trust so that anybody can chip in whenever they're available. If you have a large enough team, it will always be available for the club. Think of an example like, for example, Uber, right? How are you able to get an Uber whenever you want? Because there are enough drivers, enough captains available. And some of them are closer to you. Some of them are going the way you want to go. And that is how, having a large enough pool, you always have someone available. So think of that club mentorship duty as not the sole duty of 2 people, but the duty of a team. At this point, we will take a 5-minute break and then we will come back. Thank you so much.
Well, how's it going for everyone?
So we're resuming our presentation. Now, what I want to emphasize next is an area that perhaps is not thought about that often. And I also did not think about it initially, but as more and more clubs got established, and as I got involved with more and more clubs, I realized that this is something we really need to actively address. See, when a new member walks into a club, especially in a community club, you can always call out someone that, okay, who would like to mentor? Or you can identify a mentor and say that, you will be mentored by this person. Fine. But what about a new club where there are no mentors? Everyone is a new Toastmaster. How do we go about that? I feel that the club mentor alone is not enough to provide individual guidance to members, because realistically, when you're occupied with mentoring a club, with training the executive committee, with reinforcing that training, with answering the questions and thinking about how the club will do, surely you don't have time to mentor 20 individuals. Even if you divide the individuals between 2 of you, because there are 2 mentors, even then it will be too much. So what I would suggest is, because we've tried this and it has worked, you can introduce group mentoring or batch mentoring. When I said that build a large team, this is also one of the advantages. You can pick 3 or 4 or 5 Toastmasters from that large team, and you can assign them 4 or 5 mentees each. So I would strongly suggest that we should do it right alongside the establishment of the club. As soon as the club is chartered, start thinking about group mentors. If you are able to identify group mentors, if you ensure that every club member has a mentor, you would have significantly increased the chances of the club sustaining. Why do you think many members leave Toastmasters? Why do they lose interest? Sometimes they're not getting the guidance they're desiring. And many Toastmasters are too proud to ask. If they don't know something, they will think twice before actually reaching out. I know, as Toastmasters, we are supposed to reach out. We feel no reluctance, but think about a new person. They don't want to come across as ignorant. They don't want to come across as naive. And that is what will make them reluctant to reach out. So it is your job to put yourself in their shoes. And if you do it for a moment, think about it. You are a new person. Your company or your community has started this Toastmasters program, and you've just enlisted for it because you saw the words communication and leadership, and you loved the idea because you thought that you know these, you need these skills, you need these attributes. But what now? When you ask for study materials, you're told that log on to the website and you have everything that you need. Or you're handed over a booklet, a digital booklet or a real booklet. A Toastmaster wears many hats, right? Okay. I know what a Toastmaster is, but what's the grammarian? What is the timer? What do they time? What is our counter? And what is journal evaluator? And what is the difference between an evaluator and a journal evaluator? And what is a speech and what is a project? Just think about it. If you know nothing about Toastmasters, it is not easy to learn. And this is where your individual mentors will come in. And they will take some of the load off of you as well as mentors, because they will be continuously teaching new members about the intricacies of a Toastmasters meetings, about how to navigate pathways. And they will learn much faster as a result because there will be more people reinforcing that on and off. Now, what is a mentor? A mentor is the person who shares their knowledge and expertise with one or more people who have less experience. So it automatically implies what I said in the earlier part of the presentation, that you need experienced Toastmasters who are willing to serve and willing to invest time and energy and effort towards the betterment of others to be mentors, right? Mentoring a new Toastmasters club is similar in many ways to mentoring a single person. Remember what I said? A Toastmasters is also like a Toastmasters club is like a living organism. Think of it as a beloved pet or a prized horse or maybe even a child. And when you think of a Toastmasters club in those terms, you'll suddenly instinctively understand what needs to be done in order to provide that organism with a sustainable foundation, right? So what will you get out of the program as a mentor? You'll share your expertise, you'll develop your own capabilities, you'll prove your leadership, you're investing in the future of Toastmasters. And now, here I would digress a little bit. Toastmasters, the organization, is all well and good, but it should take a backseat to Toastmasters, the community. All right, you're serving your fellow human beings, and serving the area, division, district, region, and world headquarters takes a backseat to all of that. The first purview should be servicing and helping your fellow human beings. And if you put yourself in that mindset, once again, you will instinctively know what needs to be done. You will obtain fresh perspectives, you will encounter new problems, of course. You will encounter situations you've never experienced before, and you will learn in the process. You will build teamwork skills, and let me make a confession here. I hate teamwork. I happen to think being an introvert and being something of a lone warrior. I happen to think that I'm more comfortable working alone. I happen to think that more gets accomplished by a single dedicated person, but except compared to what a team can do. But trust me, this is my instinct as an introvert talking. When you experience Toastmasters, when you experience leadership roles, when you experience how a club is run, you indeed realize that teamwork is the answer to getting there faster and getting farther in your journey. So you will build teamwork skills, even if you're an introvert like me who hates teams, you will learn to work in teams. So that is another feather that you can add to your cap. You will learn to apply leadership skills in new situations, and you will earn credit toward participating in the Toastmaster Award. Now, the process of appointing mentors is a simple one. When you're filling the application for a new club applications to organize, if you've decided on the mentors by then, you should simply put their names and membership numbers, take the consent, and you're good to go. Otherwise, if you send the documents and the club has been chartered, then you can consult your club board director or district director and ask them to appoint up to 2 club mentors. But this needs to be done within 60 days of the charter date and no later. So the ideal scenario would be to put in your name as mentors as soon as the new club is organized, or even before that. You can, in our district, what we've done is that we've created a pool of potential candidates for distinguished Toastmaster. So we call it DTM Fast Track. It's a WhatsApp group, and anybody who joins means that they're serious towards completing a DTM. They've completed at least 2 parts, and now they're interested in mentorship or youth leadership or speechcraft or club sponsorship initiatives. So we have a pool available, and the club board director and the district director are also part of that group. So they know automatically who is up. And whenever a new club is being chartered, if there are no obvious mentors or sponsors for that, then they can reach out into that and ask anyone if they need a mentorship credit, right? So you take the baton from the club sponsors. Club sponsors have worked towards the chartering of the club, and once the club is chartered, their whole role is over. They've done what they were supposed to do. But again, you can keep them part of the team. I strongly encourage you to keep them part of the larger team, all right? Because that's when they will also be able to contribute more and take some of the load off your shoulders, right? Now, these are some of the questions that may arise while you're mentoring. Can an evaluator require a member to repeat a speech if the member did not meet the objectives? The answer is no. They cannot require, maybe then suggest. They can suggest in private, but they cannot require. There's no failure in Toastmasters. No matter how badly you do a project, it is up to you to decide whether you completed the project or not. So that is a no-no. If the speaker wants more time for a speech, should we allow them? No, we should not. Can the VP refuse to approve a member's level of path completion? No. As long as they've done the project, they've put in the effort, the VP education is supposed to okay the level. If a member's speech went overtime, can this still be included when the club votes? Now, this is debatable because, you know, completing a speech within time is one of the primary prerequisites of any project. And if you're failing that one crucial criteria, then maybe you should not be considered best speaker. Think about it in terms of contests. Whenever you have a question about what should be done, think about what is done in contests. Do they allow speeches to go overtime in World Championship of Public Speaking or any international speech contest? If they don't allow it there, then maybe you should not allow it in your club as well. Now, can guests to the club participate in voting for table topics? Now, this is just an example of a question that might come. So, The easy answer to all such questions is that in most of the cases, the club has the leeway to decide what they want to do. It would be good if the club establishes policies around voting, which roles should be voted for, what should be the qualification criteria, whether there would be any extra awards in the meeting. For example, you would do really well, perhaps, if you can introduce an award for the best facilitator. I'm not talking about the best Big Four. I'm talking about the grammarian, the bar counter, the timer, the vote counter, or any other facilitator, maybe the Zoom master. What that does is that really motivates people to give it their best, because that is how they feel valued. They're not just little cogs in the whole machine that is a Toastmasters meeting. They are its valued participants. So that is just one suggestion. Again, there's a great degree of flexibility within Toastmasters about what can be done with respect to what happens in a meeting. So explore everything that is within the possibilities and don't be afraid to change. That is also part of your mentoring experience. If something is not working well, then maybe you need to change that, and you can change that. Again, you've got 6 months at least, so you can try different things until you settle on something that works well for that particular club. How do you ensure quality club meetings? And now this is also where I will deviate from some of the standard understandings that we may have about what a Toastmasters meeting is. I speak from experience. So a Toastmasters meeting should not be treated like a social gathering. I know that sounds harsh, and it is a social gathering after all. My point is, it is not simply a social gathering. It is an educational initiative. A Toastmasters meeting is where people gather to learn. It is not a meet and greet. It is not an excuse to have a cup of tea. It is not there for entertainment. And people take major exception to that when I say that. Why should a meeting not be entertaining? Of course it should be entertaining. I'm not saying it should not be entertaining. What I'm saying is entertainment should not be the first objective of a Toastmasters meeting. Why would that be? Because if you are holding a meeting for 2 hours and you're doing just entertaining things, you're there to amuse the members in new and exciting ways, there are 1,000 other ways to do that. They can watch Netflix for 2 hours. They can go to a cinema. They can browse the social media for 2 hours. So you're not in the business of entertainment. If you do get entertainment on the side, or else, as our founder, Ralph Peacemetley said, the best learning is in the times of relaxation or entertainment. Yes, make it a medium for learning. That is the whole point. When you do anything in Toastmasters, when you think of new ways to make a meeting exciting, engaging, and enjoyable, do it because we want people to learn better. We just don't want entertainment as an end in itself. It should ultimately serve the purpose of Toastmasters, which I strongly believe is an educational program. Ensure stage time for everyone. And now do the math. For example, if there are 4 speakers, there are 4 speakers, right? 4 evaluators, that makes 8. Big 4 roles or big 3 roles, depends. Why do I say big 4? Because some districts and some clubs have the table topics evaluator as well, in addition to the Toastmaster of the day, the table topics master, and the journal evaluator. And they count them amongst big 4. But again, it can be big 3. So 4, 4, 8, and then 11. And then there are the facilitators, the meeting facilitators. There are at least 4, right? So that makes 15. And if you add 5 table topic speakers, that makes 20. And 20 is the magic number for a Toastmasters club. So guess what? You have the tools to engage 20 members in every meeting. You have the tools to give stage time to at least 20 people in every meeting. Think about it. We used to do one thing and it worked out really well. 1 member, 1 role. So when we are finalizing the agenda, usually we're scrambling to get people, and sometimes we end up assigning multiple roles to one Toastmaster, which is all well and good. I have nothing against that. But when you're establishing a new club, it is a prime opportunity to establish the culture of one member, one role. If you ingrain it in the club, that means everyone will feel obligated to participate in the meeting, and they will know that if not a speech slot, they will have an evaluation slot or a role or a table topic slot. So that is the beauty of Toastmasters. Within the conventional setup of a meeting, there are tools to keep at least 20 people engaged. You can innovate, but only after mastering the basics. For example, I encountered this idea of a backwards meeting where everything went back in time. Like evaluations came first and then speech came. And the speaker was supposed to fulfill the expectations set by the evaluator rather than the other way around. So it can all be done, you know. There can be debates, there can be other competitions within the meetings, anything to make the meeting exciting, but only when you've mastered the basics. Sometimes, especially in corporate clubs, after 3 months, people start saying that, you know, it's the same old meeting every time, we're getting bored, let's bring some excitement. Oh, of course, there are a lot of ways to bring excitement, even in conventional Toastmasters program. There are contests, right? There are debates, there are table topics, of course. So first, ensure that everyone masters the basics, and then feel free to innovate. And finally, the dashboard. Dashboard is important, especially in corporate clubs or college clubs. You will do well if you can ingrain the value of moving the needle on the dashboard. What moves the needles on the dashboard, right? New members move the needle. Attending club officer training moves the needle, right? But what moves the needle the most is speeches or projects. So 6 out of 10 DCB goals pertain to pathways. So everything should take a back seat to the progress, because projects will not only move the needle on the DCP, it will also keep members engaged. It will also encourage guests to become new members, and it will ensure easy renewals. And that means that those 6 educational goals will actually end up influencing the remaining 4 goals as well. So keep speeches paramount. Build your agenda around speeches. If you have to hold a speakerthon to accommodate speakers, that's an amazing problem to have. If you have too many speakers for a meeting, congratulations, you are a successful club, because it should not be our job to turn away speakers. Imagine if you are a fortnightly club, right? And you have placed a limit on the number of speakers, and somebody wants to make a speech, and you tell them that no, you should come in the next meeting. You will have a slot in the next meeting. What does that mean? Today, if the next meeting is a fortnight away, and the meeting next to that is a month away, I will get a chance to speak a month later compared to when I actually decide to speak. Who knows what would have happened by then? I may have lost my drive to speak. I may forget all about it. So keep members paramount, keep speeches paramount, and don't be afraid to have 5, 6, 7, 8 speeches in a meeting, because that will keep your members engaged, and that will make for super absorbing and interesting meetings. There is nothing more interesting in a Toastmasters meeting than prepared speeches. Yes, I said that. There is nothing more interesting, because you get to hear stories, get to stare inside people's souls. You get to hear things and experience things you haven't experienced before. So keep speeches paramount, and that will keep your dashboard in order. What else makes up for quality club meetings? Club officers engagement. If the club officers are not attending meetings, they have no right to press other people to attend meetings as well. So be very careful about it. Tell the club officers that they need to be attending meetings at all costs. At least most of them should. Then members should be engaged, and the best way to engage members is keep them giving speeches. Trust me, there's no better way to engage members. You can have the best favorite topics in the world, that will keep them engaged for a meeting or two. But if they are not giving speeches, the needle is not moving on their dashboard, they're not receiving acknowledgement and recognition from Toastmasters that congratulations, you've completed level 1 or level 2, then ultimately they will lose interest. And finally, recognition and rewards. Find new ways to recognize and reward members. There is no harm if you announce every level completion with a big fanfare. It will be the vital endorphin rush that will actually compete with other things that are competing for members' attention. And they will feel that compared to seeing a movie for 2 hours or maybe spending time on seeing how many likes my Instagram pic received, perhaps if I do a speech and receive an evaluation and get a standing ovation and win the best speaker prize, that is something that is far more meaningful. So more often than not, when somebody steps into the world of Toastmasters, they step into the world of doing things rather than being passive consumers. In my personal experience, from my personal life, I used to be a passive consumer of entertainment before joining Toastmasters. I used to play games. I used to stare at movies without any reservations. I used to be the proverbial couch potato. But when I joined Toastmasters, I actually started enjoying doing things. I enjoyed being active rather than passive. And now constantly I'm questioning myself, okay, I'm reading this book, or I'm watching this movie, or watching this TV show, or watching YouTube. Could I be actually doing something in a space? Could I be perhaps writing a new speech? Could I be preparing a new flyer for my club? Or could I be thinking of a new initiative to keep the excitement alive within the club? And when that happens, fellow Toastmasters and guests, trust me, you are actually on the path being a much more proactive person. We can also employ external resources as evaluators and guest speakers. That always helps to a new club, especially if you're able to invite district officers or renowned speakers as keynote speakers. That always helps, because especially in corporate clubs, oftentimes the training itself takes a back seat to branding. And what do I mean by branding? Branding means inviting a big name motivational speaker. Or branding means inviting the division director, the district director, the club board director. All these big, hefty designations, they play very well with corporates. And they seem to really enjoy the rush that they get when they have a big name speaker and they post that the pictures and the videos on the social media and the intranet. It really works well. And if you're able to do that once in a while, it will ensure that the club's hosts, the people who actually founded the club, are that much more closely bonded with the club itself. Total quality management. Each and every aspect of a club should be managed. It should not be left to chance. There's a whole different field in Toastmasters about what a quality club is and what a quality meeting is. And I won't go into the details. What I'll just say is this: we need to actively manage each and every part. The agenda, the speeches, the mentoring, and the executive committee meetings, the quality of the speeches within a meeting, the quality of table copies. You need to keep an eagle eye on each and every aspect. Only then you will ensure quality. Building and maintaining membership, of course, especially if it's a community club, it can be a challenge. Usually what happens is that the club is founded and then it usually suffers a dip in second and third renewal cycles because many of the people who join the club are no longer interested. They realize it's too much work to be a Toastmaster or a club officer, and that's okay. Don't regret people who are not fully committed going away, because they will make way for people who are really committed. And when a club is founded, that has been my experience. When a club is founded, 20 people, usually there are 10 or 12 or even 8 renewals after the first cycle. But you know what those renewals represent are truly committed Toastmasters. And it is an easy opportunity to build upon that. Then you add members one by one. And those members that will add subsequently will always be committed to being Toastmasters and to the cause of Toastmasters. We have these membership building contests, and again, this ties into the whole reward and recognition cycle. Annual individual member sponsors. Now you can institute an award, maybe a recognition, a certificate. We all know that Toastmasters send out pins if you sponsored 5 or 10 members, but again, that may not be very easy, especially for new Toastmasters. So you can issue a certificate or a commemorative pin or something like that to anyone who brings in a new member. That will be tremendously rewarding. Once I displayed a new member ribbon given by Toastmasters, I displayed them before everyone. I was a club president. I told them that, you know, anybody who takes up membership will receive this ribbon. And do you know what happened? 2 guests signed up right there and then. They were prepared to spend $45 in order to get something that did not even cost them a single dollar. So love and excitement are not rational. And you can count on that. You can count on creating excitement for these little souvenirs, because they may not cost much, but you will not get them outside of Toastmasters. You can't go to a shop and take a Toastmaster and buy a Toastmasters pin, can you? It will always be rewarded to you by someone for doing something special. And that is where the real value in Toastmasters memorabilia comes in. So we have these awards, Medley Award, Talk of Toastmasters, and Beat the Club. And these are good, but I believe that a club should be adding members around the year, regardless of whether they win Medley or Talk of Toastmasters or Beat the Club. If you end up adding 20 members and you still do not win one of these awards, still you will end up adding 20 members. So these are good to have, but whenever a new member is becoming a new member, you should instantly jump on that chance and invite them in, rather than waiting for the terms of these members, these awards to start. These are good pointers. These are good recognitions. You can build your membership campaigns around Medley Award and Talk of Toastmasters and Beat the Clock. But don't delay a membership just because you want to fall in this window. There's so many promotional strategies. You can have your social media, you can have your YouTube channel. I actually pioneered having a YouTube channel of a club in our district, because I realized that the speakers were creating such amazing content and it was just disappearing into thin air. Nobody was listening to that content after the speech was made. So I started recording and I established a YouTube channel, and that tremendously helped club gain new members, because people saw the speeches, they were impressed by the speeches, and the speakers themselves saw themselves on YouTube, and they were better able to appraise the evaluation that they received. So it was a win-win for everyone. So having a YouTube channel, having a Facebook page, all should serve towards building excitement towards the club, and should serve as a platform for members' recognition. When you will put up a member's picture, winner of Best Speaker Award for the meeting dated this will be an unparalleled achievement for that member. And it may sound minor to us since we are experienced Toastmasters, but think about it. Where else would you get a Best Speaker award except in a Toastmasters meeting? Where else would you get rewarded for playing a role, for timing, except in a Toastmasters meeting? So these things are always special. Even today, having completed Distinguished Toastmaster 5 times, whenever, on the rare chance that I receive a Best Speaker award, I feel so energized, so fulfilled, simply because I feel that I've justified my 5 DTMs. I've not disappointed the people. Instead, I've inspired them and motivated them. So it is always a journey. You do each and every step with all your heart, you get rewarded. There's nothing like it. So Toastmasters, just to recap, the Toastmasters Club is about education first, and your mentorship should keep education, projects, level completions front and center. The hidden mass of a club I already talked to you about. If there are 20 members and 5 members are speaking in a meeting, that means in every 4th meeting, a person will have a repeat opportunity to do a speech, right? So be very, very mindful of that, because such a large gap between speeches is also not advised. So be very mindful of how much of a gap All right. So we also talked about how every Toastmasters meeting has speaking opportunities for at least 20 people. Be very mindful of this mathematics, because this is vital and crucial to keeping members engaged. If every member has a speaking opportunity every 5th meeting, this will not be good. So maybe explore sending them to other clubs, continue speaking, or holding speakathons. This is the hidden maths of a club that we need to be mindful of, because this is, you may not even realize it, and some members may drift away just because they're not getting speaking opportunities. Especially if the club is fortnightly, then all of that multiplies twofold, right? So if I am a speaker and I'm one of the 20 people of a new club, I will get a speaking opportunity today. My icebreaker will be today, and after 3 more meetings. If the club is weekly, I will get to do writing a speech with purpose exactly 1 month after today. So in a way, it's good. I will get more opportunity to prepare and deliver a good speech. But remember, everybody has a different appetite. Some people have this necessity to speak and speak again and again. Some people are content with delivering a project every month. But again, do the math. Path has 14 or 15 projects. Would you really be okay if everybody took 2 years to complete the path? I don't think so. So you have to check the appetites of all the members of a new club and schedule them accordingly, and even encourage them to do more speeches by holding speakathons or special sessions. Do anything to keep them engaged. Count on dropouts. Don't be disappointed when after the first 6 months, because that will happen. And also, it will be good because these dropouts will actually represent people who were not fully committed, or maybe they did make a commitment, but afterwards lost the will to stay with Toastmasters. That's good. You cannot have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You need to concentrate on the people who are within the club, who are willing to stick to it. So you should make that an asset. Think about it. When you don't have people who are not committed, you won't need to assign speaking slots to them. You won't have to chase them. All right. They will be the ones Your members will now be the ones who will take up the roles themselves rather than you having to force them. So there's always an upside to the cleansing of a club. Don't lose heart just because the numbers drop. Don't just look at the dashboard and see that we started with 20 and now we're 10. Oh, that's bad. Yes, that's bad in some respects. But if you have a tighter, more committed club as a result, I would count that as a win, whether you become distinguished or not. Remember, being a quality club is more important than being a distinguished club. And finally, your club is your child even when it grows up. Your sense of commitment to your club, your sense of belonging should not just end after 6 months. It should be there for its lifetime or at least for several years. So think of, once again, think of the club as your child or as your student or as your mentee. If you think of it in those terms, you will become an exceptional club mentor.
There we go.
Good.
We had a few glitches in there, but hopefully everyone.
Yeah, and some of
managed.
those could be edited out as well later if we're going to post this on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Can you send us a YouTube link to that, please?
It won't be available just yet.
No.
There will be
Yeah.
eventually.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm. Is it Nauman? Is that how you say your name?
Noman with the
Noman.
double A.
Yeah, no mind.
Yes.
So did Talha meet your expectations?
Yes. I've actually been working with him and other district members when we chartered the club. I'm a member of another club, which is Mohsen Lodi Executive Toastmasters Club. And we just chartered a new club within our organization. It's a company club called DPL Rebels. And I am actually a Toastmaster from 2008. I was a Toastmaster until 2016. Then I was kind of out for 3-4 years, then got back in. A lot of things
Wonderful.
have changed since. And yes, I agree that it gave me a lot of new things because I'm a mentor and a sponsor of the current club, the new club we have chartered. So this will help me a lot.
Perfect.
Noman, do we have your email? Could you pop your email in the chat?
It is.
Sure, I'll do
Have
that.
it. We do have it.
Wonderful.
Conversation.
Yeah, you sound to me like you'd be a great source. just
Most welcome.
just for,
and,
if we're running into challenges. No, what are you doing right now? So thank you very much.
so,
So
and
we'll
thank you
open.
all. I just want
ahead.
to say thank you very much all. I won't be able to stay longer because I have an appointment, but
Yeah.
thank you very much for this opportunity.
Oh.
And it was a very good time because it was early here, but it was a very good time because I was able to join. Otherwise, it would have been difficult.
Oh, well,
later.
Thank you for being
Thank you
here.
very much.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you so
Noman.
much from around the
Thank
world.
you.
Thanks.
So the floor is open for questions.
Process. You can see that there would be differences between corporate clubs and community clubs. For instance, the nature of the membership, the tendency is probably that you would have 17 brand new members because it's a brand new club in a corporation. You're going to have more selective process. You have to be an employee, et cetera, et cetera. So it would be probably more likely that you're going to have a whole batch of new members. And having said that, we're looking for a few mentors in the fall for some corporate clubs coming up. So if you're interested and you have some questions, obviously lots of questions out of this, right? Because part of it is meeting with the sponsor, part of it is understanding there is a team, and we're building actually a program that's going to help you introduce all those things that Tala was talking about in terms of how do I do this? Like, what do I tell them first? Well, first of all, there's the roles and the elections. And then, you always build in an educational piece, and you can bring in people to help you do that as they learn these things. Maybe try group mentoring, which I think is a great idea, really. Finding another Toastmaster who will take a group of them and be a mentor for a period of time so that you have support. But there will be district support for sure. We've got potential agendas and that kind of thing. I was just looking for in the corporate book that Pat's written. There's a typical agenda to start with. So there are lots of tools to help you. You're not just starting from square one when you become a sponsor or a mentor for a new club.
I have a comment, if I may share.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Oh, thank you. Now, to me, being a home club, which is struggling since I've been a member for the last 2.5 years, and my challenge was, why don't people learn pathways? And it was sort of reassuring to see that it's not me, and my club is having the pathways challenge. And when Tala mentioned, repeat the pathways training, repeat the pathways training, because it's not that once done, it's like set in. It's a new knowledge, information. So you've got to keep practicing it, So to me, that was a very significant point that, okay, if I have to cut down a speech, maybe one speech a month, and have again a refresher course on pathway, especially now that we're getting newer members, and how do we make them, make sure that they are comfortable in using pathways. So to me, that was a significant point. I mean, the whole content was good, but that the reinforcement on pathways, that this is what we are, this is our technology, this is our path to go. So don't feel bad about doing it again and again. So that to me was a significant point.
Yeah, every meeting. And the fact that speeches are who we are.
Yeah.
And clubs over the past couple of years, for many different reasons, had challenges with pathways.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're older members making the transition, that's been very difficult. And new members, because they come in, they should not know anything new unless older members are talking about it. You know what I mean? It happens. Or it's just a challenging piece. There's a learning curve on everything.
Yes.
And some people take those online learning curves with more difficulty than others. And we have to, as you say, we have to keep repeating.
Be patient.
Yeah.
And Shaquille, just keep your eyes open, because there's in January and February on Mondays, there are a number of pathways sessions like this, that we will go over pathways for people, different aspects on pathways. And Carlos had his hand up.
Yep. I wanted to just share that many members in clubs, in a way, they feel some kind of scare when they see that there are not many members in the agenda, right? And they prefer just to cancel the session and not to have that. I would say that that is also a very healthy opportunity for them to see and to learn how they really work, because there are members who will attend that session. And canceling the session, I don't think it's a way, because it's expressing that you cannot deal with change, you cannot deal with that kind of sense of being vulnerable. So I would recommend that members go on this, especially for mentorship.
And to further what Carlos is saying, at our TLI in November, we're actually having a session on dynamic meetings with low membership. So that can also help clubs and members to understand how to still have a meeting when you've got low membership.
Yeah.
I like to add a point to what Shaki was saying about pathways. Fortunately for me, when I joined Toastmasters, I also enrolled myself in the Adult Education Diploma program. So the pathways align with how we were being taught the active learning principles, experiential learning principles, post assessment, how adults learn, self directed learning. So for me, it was making complete sense. And as a matter of fact, the BOPS acronym that we use for delivering instruction was exactly the same as International Tour Pathways structure. So I am more than happy if I'll start with visiting clubs and do a small presentation, what goes behind those principles, what are the science of learnings, what theories are involved, and I'm very into it. So,
That's
but it will give me a chance to improve my public speaking.
Perfect.
Aisha, that's a great idea. It's very interesting because with a corporate club, what we find is that in corporate clubs, there's a whole different environment. Corporate clubs, the staff is busy. They expect to have a trainer. Someone comes in and gives them a workshop or a webinar and a bunch of bullets and some resources, and they expect to walk away and have that. So that concept of the adult learning and our experiential learning is such a key piece that of Toastmasters that not everybody grasps. And I'm finding with corporate clubs particularly, they have that mindset that they're being taught and they walk away with something, that they can show their supervisor or whatever to say, oh yeah, I took this course. And Toastmasters is so very different. And you also understand that very well. It'd be great to share that with others.
Thank you.
Nice. All right. If there's no other comments or conversation or questions, we will call that a night or a day, depending on where you are.
Just a thought. Is there an outline for approaching corporate style type clubs or to start building one?
There will be.
Okay, excellent. Good.
We are building one right now as we speak.
Oh, okay. Well, then.
I've been building it actually for a month or so. I like seriously building it when we realized that, yeah, every club is different, certainly for the corporate clubs, but it would relate as well to community clubs, so that you have a framework, that you can move around and change, but at least you have a framework so that that you're, or a checklist or something like that, so you're hitting the boxes. For sure.
Is that to a closed group? Because I'd be kind of interested to take a peek on that.
Well, we'll bring you in as soon as we can, but it's certainly, from my perspective, it's a work in motion right now.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Just so that, because all the materials right now, particularly when you go to Toastmasters, they don't have these PowerPoints, they don't have these guidelines. They're sort of in a facilitator's handbook, but not not for a handout for the person who's actually doing it, not the actual mentor, the actual sponsor. So we're working on that for sure. But at the moment, we still need coaches and sponsors and mentors, and we want them to know that there is a procedure and we're behind them as they work through it. So but it is coming.
So as we close up tonight, I would just like to remind everyone that next week is a session on a club coach. So this is not for a new club. This is clubs that are 12 or less, or less than 12. Less than 12.
Yeah.
Less than 12 members. At any club who wants a coach is able to get one, but of course we need qualified coaches from our district team, district members in general. So please spread the word. Anyone that you know that is interested in being a club coach, please attend next week's session. Same time, same place, right here.
And again, it's a qualification for your DTM, either being a sponsor or a mentor or a club coach.
Mhm. All right, thanks
That'd
for
be
being
awesome.
here, everyone. Spread the word, and we'll see you
you.
again next week.
Great
Thanks,
session.
everyone. Take
Thank you,
care.
thank you,
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
take care,
Have a
bye.
great night.
Guys.